Hi, I'm Chris Bishop and welcome to the Mining Indaba 2020 in Cape Town. Still one of the biggest mining gatherings on the planet. Stay with us for the next half an hour. We'll bring you all the highlights, news and views from Mining Indaba 2020. Presidents, ministers, mining giants and industry players all under one roof. 4 days of investment conversations, tackling key issues in the mining industry and networking. It's a massive operation, an army of people to be fed and watered. This was the eve of the conference in sunny Cape Town. Organisers hope this year will see brighter skies and shinier commodity prices over Africa's struggling mining industry. Certainly this year, in their thousands they came, nearly 7,000 according to the organisers. The organisers claim the numbers are up this year after a few years of worrying decline that has mirrored the trials of the mining industry itself.
What we're finding is, despite some of the struggles with the economy, obviously there's the whole Eskom situation, which needs to be looked at. A lot of new content for this year at Indaba revolves around ESG investing and sustainability and climate change, which is, I'm really encouraged to see people talking openly about that on main stage.
The whole topic of ESG is it's one that's really risen in the last couple of years. There's something like $35 trillion of invested capital that's attached to ESG principles. What I would say is that it's certainly putting the pressure and the spotlight on mining companies to embed those kinds of processes within their organizations. I think the industry in many locations actually does a significantly good job of creating that value with communities, but I don't think always tells its story, right? And I think as an industry, it needs to get that story out. But it's a complicated one, and it's also one where mining companies are going to have to go down a path. For many of them, it's going to require relooking at their commodity portfolios. It's going to be looking at how do they actually deal with communities and host governments, and how do they put that level of transparency and accountability in place.
Most of the 4,500 rooms 10 minutes walk from the Mining Indaba in Cape Town are full. This is the Westin Hotel on the doorstep of the Mining Indaba, where Stacey Hopkins has been the sales and marketing manager for a decade. She says that its 500 bedrooms and 19 function rooms are booked out.
If you just look at it currently, in this CBD area and what we call the node of the convention center, we're definitely at capacity. So it's great to see that. We've come off a year of water recovery, as we call it, and to see the city like this booming, their last minute requests, it's fantastic.
The Mining Indaba also promises to give business here more of a fighting chance in its bruising battle against the economic downturn.
Decline in production of platinum group metals, coal, iron ore, and on positive side, however, the non-metallic minerals made significant positive contribution to the production. And this reality forced us to take serious decisions. That's why we have agreed that because we have problems of energy, we must allow our mining companies to generate energy for self-use. You will not need a license for that. You'll just be registered and run ahead. Secondly, we've taken a decision that we'll talk to investors who are going to go everywhere where we can get investors to start a generating company outside of Eskom. And that is a security measure so that as Eskom is grappling with all the crises and problems, we must have a fail-safe option of generating energy, particularly with the pressure to close a number of coal-generated power stations.
themes at this Indaba were cleaner, greener, renewable energy and the mining industry's environmental impact, a trend that is attracting more investors.
South Africa has an unparalleled opportunity to lead the hydrogen economy through its abundant endowment of PGMs, and this has innumerable benefits for the development of sustainable and clean energy and a range of other opportunities and possibilities in South Africa. The picture is equally favourable for copper, which is a critical metal for the new area of clean, green, renewable energy. Copper is at the heart of every wind turbine, electrical vehicle, solar panel, while also helping efficient energy storage. Simply put, we know that mining has a long-term role in shaping the energy transition, but going into this transition, we need to ensure that mining is climate smart, with ideally no or little negative climate impact. It will take time, but the debates are heading in the right direction, and all I see is a commitment from our industry to continue on that transition.
It is a transformation. I think that's something we need to acknowledge, and not something that will take an instantaneous response from coal to renewables. Secondly, we must be conscious of the unique situation that South Africa is in that 90 to 95% of our electricity is from coal. And therefore switching to renewables will be a transition that will transform the energy generation landscape from where it is today. And I think that transformation is one that must also be considerate of the social impacts that it will have for the structure of the economy that we have.
South Africa's mining industry was actually quite built on a vertically integrated basis. We didn't build Vametco, we didn't build Vanchem, we acquired them, right? That was our brownfield strategy. So there are primary processing facilities which are quite expensive to build on a greenfield basis, which are here, which you can take advantage of. Now downstream, in terms of making electrolyte, for example, for vanadium redox flow batteries, the capital you need to invest is actually not high. We're building an electrolyte manufacturing plant in East London, which will supply 200 megawatt hours worth of electrolyte, right, globally. Now, that plant will cost us $10 million, right, and that's debt, equity included. We're able to do that because we've got the primary processing infrastructure, right, and so it can be done, is the point. The markets, as I said again, which are a key stimulator of production capacity and manufacturing capacity. The market is here.
We are actually quite fortunate. Being in Priska, everybody knows we've got a lot of sun, we've got a lot of wind, and we actually have got a lot of wind and solar power plants around us. So with the new self-generation that is being muted, we see an opportunity there. And that's something that we've been working on to make sure that we work with Eskom, but we also look at alternative green energy that we can bring into our project.
How do you think South African mining, with all of its environmental challenges, can actually clean up a lot quicker in the short term?
I think there's a number of generic areas where they can do that. The first one is energy. Burning coal to produce electricity creates a lot of greenhouse gases. So there's an enormous move towards a different energy mix. Coal is going to be there, it'll be there for a long time. But you can have a different mix with solar, you can bring some wind in, running hydrogen fuel cells, these sorts of things into the energy mix to lower that coal-derived electricity footprint. That's the one big area. The second area is in water, cleaning up the effluents, recycling water. Probably within the last decade, the standards have gone from recycling your plant water 10 times to 20 times. So all of these areas, there's tremendous effort going into it at the moment, and great strides been made.
It's another point that a lot of people are talking about at the moment, and the fact that everyone's talking about this artificial intelligence and new technology. How far away do you think we are from running mines remotely from the safety of the surface?
I think it's still a way off. It's nearly like as I want to make the analogy of autonomous car. You can't yet buy autonomous car. None of us can't. But it's the dream, and if you don't have that dream, you're not going to pull yourself into that area. So I think it's still far off, but it could be potential an option. at least on small areas where you can say we can stand off no hand and machine interface because you have the autonomous drilling, for example. And so we venture on this journey, but I still think it's about 10 years off before we really have a mine that can be autonomously managed. As new technology comes on board, you integrate that into your mine going forward.
Feet that have walked the floors of the mining Indaba in Cape Town for more than a decade. Eyes that have seen much change and many deals here.
It was similar but a bit smaller, a lot of equipment focused. It's still a good level of interest from investors and mining companies. And the other constant over the years has been listening to the ministers and presidents from countries in Africa, getting an update on where their countries are going.
This is Michael Ryan from FTI Consulting in Perth, the capital of Australian mining.
We've got state-of-the-art technical people. We've got iron ore industry, gold industry, nickel, zinc, mineral sands, and then in the northwest we've got the world's largest oil and gas platforms. So it's or LNG platforms. So it's a very big mining hub in the world.
Like many of the nearly 7,000 delegates here in Cape Town, he has seen an ever-changing mining Indaba. It hasn't always been an easy road for the mining Indaba. As mining struggled over the last decade, the numbers dwindled. It seemed that the conference was going down a bit, but the mining Indaba has endured and survived. Michael Ryan has also seen the change in the relationship between the emerging mining giant of Australia and the industry here in Africa.
What you're seeing is a lot more funds coming, industry specialty funds coming here to Indaba, and they're focused on African opportunities, and Australian explorers and junior mining companies are coming here to Africa, working with those funders and trying to put the two together.
Clean energy, environmental impacts and technology are bringing more attention from investors as pressure rises from regulators and activists. What interesting projects have you come across here?
Well, there are lots of interesting projects. I think what we've found is what's interesting to us in the mining industry is not only obviously the mines themselves, but the infrastructure associated with the mines. What's challenging is to find an environment where you can actually make profitable or reasonable investments in, whether it be roads, power, ports, wherever they may be, in a way that investors will be willing to put in the money and get a reasonable return because they create reasonable economic value. And again, that could be renewables and or any other sort of area. And so what we're doing now at the World Bank is actually trying to roll up our sleeves to try to have the discussions with governments, with companies, to see what is the problem. Why aren't you investing in roads or power? How can we fix those issues that are preventing you from investing? Because we know it's not the money. There's plenty of money out there.
Countries who need investment, especially like African countries, obviously we're talking about African business here, and there are also a lot of investors which are interested in looking for like investment, like from Canada, from Australia, from UK, and it's good to see that the vibe is there. Obviously, there are hard times for different commodities, like for instance, iron ore is under pressure at the moment because of coronavirus. We don't know what's going to happen to iron ore prices. Copper is under huge pressure. China is a very dominant buyer for all the commodities almost. So if anything goes wrong with China, we are in trouble. But it's always good to be here to see that people are very excited to talk about business.
Mining has been and continues to be a really important part of our overall portfolio of trade and investment across Africa. The obvious sort of household names almost of Rio Tinto and Anglo-American, very sort of major companies in the mining industry. But what I've seen over the years that I've been coming to the mining Indaba is we usually bring some SMEs with us that really reflect the breadth of the UK's supply chain in the mining sector, and really important importantly, really, they demonstrate the impact of technology and innovation and how we can bring the research from our universities, commercialise those and bring those into the mining sector to make processes more efficient, bring in new techniques.
One of the ones that we are looking at, and it's a common one that everyone knows, but indeed in the Mozambican gas environment, we are already an investor in Mozambique in the big aluminium smelter there, but we are looking at a significant gas project in Mozambique. I met today with colleagues and promoters of projects in the DRC, in the tin and nickel environment. We believe that the DRC post the elections is beginning to show signs of encouragement, and I think where we can manage to mitigate risks and create opportunities for investment, we should do so.
We're certainly here to look for opportunities and to deepen the relationship. We have over 200 companies that operate, Canadian companies that are here in South Africa, and we have a presence throughout Africa. So growing the trade relationship, looking for investments, helping to support our Canadian companies is exactly what I'm here to do.
Hard-hitting discussions around sustainability, junior miners and exhibitors all fighting for their slice of the investment cake. Supporting this event is Brand South Africa, who hosted two separate events, the South African Business Matchmaking Session and a stakeholder engagement in partnership with Invest Africa, known as African Mining Industry of the Future.
This seminar is part of a series in which we are talking to investors, both foreign and domestic, on the policy directives of the country, and as well as providing them information on how the Ease of Doing Business program that government is embarking on, and informing on them of opportunities in investment, as well as for us to monitor the progress on the 2018 and 2019 investment pledges that were committed in the two investment conference of the President. Investors are looking for what are the new opportunities, where are the new exploration opportunities, as well as looking for new partners in South Africa where they can work together to develop mining projects.
A truer statement cannot be made about the profile of the country. I think in terms of the profile of South Africa, you know, when you look at media headlines, we are worried about GDP growth, we're worried about a lot of things, which of course we are. However, I think from a Brand South Africa perspective, what we try to do is to understand what are the pillars, what are the fundamental features that we offer as a country, and that the capabilities that we have. And I think when you start digging in there, if you look at competitiveness, for example, we currently rank 60th out of 141 countries in the world global competitiveness index of the World Economic Forum. But there are other very surprising indicators as well. If you look at the index called the Good Country Index, South Africa actually ranks 18th out of 163 countries for science and technology.
I can tell you without fear or favor that we have not begun to mine. We have just been practicing for the past 100 years plus. Now, if we have been practicing for the past 100 years plus, and you are here as the investment community who are excited about the mining industry, which I believe you all are, because I am, let's have a conversation about application of technology in the mining industry. I have a target of getting exploration share of South Africa from 1% of the global share to 5% in the next 5 years.
We do have the tendency of looking at a process very one-sided. We don't look broadly into how can we get the maximum benefit from this process. So at Mintech, we believe that before we even establish a process, we look deep into how we can get the maximum out of it. We treat a process option almost like a bone of a chicken thigh. You know, you'll try and eat and get all the goodness out of it before you throw it away. I think that's the kind of attitude that we need to have towards our technology and mining industry. We have to create processing options that suck out the life of all that we can suck out in our minerals and make sure that we bring back the maximum value.
The proposition is that the rapid advance of mining digitization and regulatory changes will require a new kind of leadership for Africa's mines of the future. With this, I'm certain no one present here will quarrel. New technologies and regulations always invariably test industries and regulators alike. The challenges they bring forth require a high degree of versatility, creativity, and openness to engage beyond what all parties might have traditionally considered as norm.
As investors come here, we emphasize that they must work with local people, because we also want to get previously disadvantaged people into the mainstream of the economy. We want to get women into mainstream of the economy, young people, particularly because if you look at high levels of unemployment in South Africa, it's mainly young people. So we want them to become entrepreneurs, start businesses. I was quite impressed. Yesterday I met a lot of young people who are already in the mining sector. They call most of them junior miners. And I was saying to them they must grow. They can't be juniors forever. But you can see that there are a lot of young people who are now moving into that sector. And I think we need to market that a lot, because mining is a very important sector in our economy, and we need to ensure more innovations. This Indaba provides opportunities for those kind of interactions.
If you look at the results of the investment drive of the President, the 5-year objective that he set and the annual investment conferences, if you look at the numbers of jobs alone that are created through those investments, it's thousands upon thousands of jobs. On top of that, you have new capital flowing into the economy. Also, you bring new skill and new technologies offered with those investments into the economy. So yes, we want organic, natural growth of South Africans and South African companies, but oftentimes the foreign direct investment that comes into the economy also sparks local company development, because they become suppliers, they become partners to the investment. So FDI is a critical factor ultimately in the bigger scheme of not just expanding economic activity, but also enhancing, the network of doing business in the country. I think we underestimate the experience and the understanding of multinationals of labor environments. So I think, yes, we have a history of, in cases, strikes and labor instability, and also cost of labor is sometimes an issue, but I don't think that's the biggest deterrent for an investor when they consider South Africa. In fact, a lot of investments that we've seen and that we've interfaced with are actually drawn to South Africa on the African continent, particularly because of our infrastructure and because of the access to financial systems, and also the access that they have to the resources as well as the human skill.
Making mining matter for the future is challenging and forever changing. A key pillar contributing to the future of mines are junior miners. How does one filter through all of the smaller kids on the block? Now this is one way. This is one of the highlights of the Mining Indaba. Seconds out. Junior miners box it out in the investment battlefield ring. So this is the actual boxing ring that's being talked about. So this week, people with mining projects, they'll be climbing through the ropes here in the hope that their idea will go 12 rounds under severe scrutiny. So this week it'll be seconds out. This platform helps secure junior miners investment. Last year's runner-up secured 180 million for his project.
And how skeptical were the people who were there, the assessors of this thing? Because I'm told it's quite tough.
Oh, the assessors were very grilling, which is good, because they really do make you actually understand the essence, what the value proposition that you bring to the project, as opposed to simply doing a project. There was a lot of competition if you're being compared to others, with a lot of energy from the various juniors and all the other projects that we're working there.
The winner of today's investment battlefield is Tieto Minerals.
Congratulations for winning. So the moment when they said you've won, what was the feeling?
Surprised. We definitely believe we had a great project, but it was a tough contest. I'm over the moon. It's fantastic.
So what happens now? That's the question. I mean, a lot of people don't quite understand how it works, but this win, what does it mean for you and your project?
Look, I think it's a fantastic validation. We were here last year and we said we were going to end up with a multi-million ounce project. and we've delivered on it in the meantime. So it's I think it's almost like it's a pat on the back, or it's a validation of setting out, this is what we're going to do, and we've delivered on it, and it's been recognised by some pretty high-hitting investment judges.
So how will it help you to raise capital for this project?
Yeah, look, I think it gives us a chance to raise the profile, because it's definitely a case that we've flown a little bit below the radar. Look, last year we actually did raise around about $70 million Australian, so we actually are pretty well cashed up, but it would be fantastic if new shareholders had a look, or investors had a look at us and came on board.
I mean, how tough were some of the questions there? I mean, I know that they were pretty grueling.
It's good. Look, I think the junior sector has been losing a lot of money for shareholders over the last 10 years. And I think it's time the juniors wake up, and as opposed to just focusing on the asset, when you're lucky enough to have a great asset like we have, you need also to see how you can take care of the shareholders. And the point I was making in the battlefield is people talk about turning a market cap from 25 million to $500 million and say, look at me, I'm a rock star. But they forget to tell you that they've increased the share count by 18 times as well. So the share price is the same. So you have to make sure that you have the right executive team with an amazing geologist like Vasily, we have, an amazing leadership with Nick, but you need to be obsessed about the money. You need to be obsessed about trying to limit the dilution as much as you can. And the questions were related to this, and I think they were right.
4 days of conversation, pitches and networking. Hope for mining at the mining Indaba in Cape Town.
Yeah, so far I managed to meet very interesting people who are willing to support us. I hope it's going to be a successful, deal, because we wouldn't have met them if it weren't for the mining Indaba.
Now, you're speaking to a lot of these companies and investors here. Which particular commodities have people been investigating here?
PGMs and palladium particularly have been hot. Rhodium would be into that family. A lot of investors have expressed really strong interest in addressing those commodity types at this event. We ran a round table with Investec earlier today. We had over 100 fund managers in the room, a lot from South Africa, but a lot from also around the world, because obviously South Africa being such a PGM player and supplier around the world, there's a lot of interest from international investors as well.
What else has come out of this mining Indaba you think that's worthy of note as it draws to an end?
Well, I think some of the kind of standout highlights for us, obviously on the opening day, we were fortunate that we had President Julius Maada Bio, the President of Sierra Leone, give a keynote address talking about fiscal policy in Sierra Leone, the adoption of technology which they're looking at.
And next year, lastly?
I think for next year, what we need to do is obviously continue to keep our content relevant. We need to continue to engage with the industry. There's a lot more that we think we can do. We obviously have many different platforms through the Junior Mining Forum, the Battery Metals Day, the Investor Battlefield, but we know that the industry wants to hear more, so we need to engage with the industry, and whatever they're telling us that we need to do, then we'll make sure that that's put into the programme.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this highlight special from Mining Indaba 2020 here in Cape Town. The organisers are already getting things together for next year's event, and we'll see you there. From me, Chris Bishop at Mining Indaba 2020 in Cape Town, it's goodbye.